Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today is March 12th, 2026. Almost 6 straight years of Torah every single weekday morning, finding each other from across the world to say good morning, to learn a little bit, to appreciate each other, and to bring each other meaning and company. It's good to see everybody. Safta Stieber. Dan, nice to see you, my friend. Kate, Susie, Tara, and John, Scott, good to see you too. Hi, Bensi. Welcome, everybody. Good to see everyone. Let's see who's here on Facebook too, so we can say some hellos here and there. Deborah and Cecile, good morning. Hi, Adrian. Jack, nice to see you too. A few more hellos. We'll sing a bracha. We'll learn some Torah. Hi, Barry. Good morning to you. All right. If you're in New York, sorry for the dreary weather, but we had 2 nice days. That's a lot. Cheryl and George, Caroline, Adrian, Arlene, and Dave. Good morning. Hi, Ryan. Marion, nice to see you too. Michelle, welcome. Hi, Lydia. It's good to see all of you. Arlene, so excited that you went to the Shalva dinner last night. Shalva is an organization that does miraculous work, not only mainstreaming children who have any developmental differences, also helping families come together with love and security, teaching kindness and chesed. I'm so moved to hear that you were there, and I'm so proud of you, JA, for supporting the new Shalva Sharabi Center. Named in memory of the family members of Eli Sharabi who were murdered on October 7th. We have a lot to talk about. People are sharing a lot, and I'm so sorry that I can't keep up with what's coming across my screen, but it's so good to see all of you to celebrate this 1,507th broadcast. Thank you, Penny, for keeping count. And let's learn some Torah. This is what we've done for 6 years, and hoping that those of us in need of healing feel it coming their way. Prayers for each other's welfares, and those of us in Israel and with family members and friends in Israel, which is all of us, we're family. Across my screen, while saying all these things, there are sirens blaring in central Israel right now, the all clear given to another section of Israel because of incessant missiles coming both from Hezbollah in the north and coming across from Iran. Our hearts are with our people. A little bit of Torah for today. Parshat Vayakhel Pekudei, this double Torah portion that we read this week, is dense with details. But let's deal with it on the meta level. What are the details of the Mishkan? What was the Mishkan? The Mishkan was the portable desert tabernacle, the first synagogue, as it were. It wasn't necessarily for the gathering of people, but it was for the sake of convening their spiritual attention. At the very center of the camp was this tent of meeting where the high priest would offer sacrifices to God and where God's voice would emanate from between two angels, two kruvim, right in the Holy of Holies. But shouldn't that strike us as strange? We are told on Mount Sinai, just earlier in the book of Shemot, that you should not have any graven images, and yet this is a spectacle, a physical spectacle. Not only that, you might say it's a physical, it's a something real in space. It's a construction of holy things, of precious materials, but it's just geometric, similar to the way in Muslim and Jewish spaces the art is largely just geometric. Isn't it a challenge to think about something physical in space that garners so much attention, that there is a thing called the Holy of Holies, and furthermore, we are told not to create images of anything in heaven or on earth. And in the center of the Holy of Holies are two angels that are described as having some physical attributes that look like humans, and some that look like a lion, and some that looks like an eagle. I never thought about it as a child, but we were just told not to have graven images. This is pretty graven, and it's images. So here we are. I remember having this conversation with an Israeli early childhood educator who came to work with me in Berkeley, California. And she had no experience in religious space because often in Israel, where she grew up, religion is presented in a monolithic way, which doesn't make space for the diversities of religious expression. And she brought the children into the sanctuary where every morning I had this beautiful, sweet ritual that I would do with them. We'd open up the Ark, the Aron HaKodesh, we'd blow the Torah a kiss and say, Boker Tov, Torah, good morning to the Torah. It's kind of like what we do with our morning broadcast. And she said, isn't that idol worship? Isn't that weird? It's just a thing. It's a special thing, but it's just a thing. And I said to her then, what I'll say now, but I want to go deeper in a second, that we would not be kissing the Torah if it were the object of our worship. We appreciate that Torah helps us reach through the Torah toward the divine, toward the world itself. Torah itself is not the object of our worship. It pulls us forward into seeing beyond things. Similarly, the kruvim, the two cherubs that were in the Holy of Holies, they were not the place from which God's voice emanated. It's the space between them where God's voice emanated. And that leads me to make this other observation. People often contrast the construction of the golden calf, which also happens very recently in the book of Shemot, and the construction of the Mishkan. The people gave overwhelming amounts of gold and precious materials, either out of desperation or out of devotion. That's a good contrast. But also, they are things that are created. When the golden calf was created, the people shouted, "Here is the God that took you out of Egypt." And even if you see the calf as an earthly footstool for the people's attention to the divine, similar to what I was describing the Torah as, they pointed at the thing. Well, when the Mishkan is created and completed in this week's double Torah portion, something interesting happens. The Mishkan is created, and then, God's clouds of glory came and filled the space. But isn't it interesting to see in the text, and perhaps in our imaginations as we envision this impossible sight, that God's clouds of glory are not the Mishkan? Even facing the problematics of God in space, because if the clouds are here and then the clouds are there, and they transport God's presence, then that creates a very interesting notion of where God is and how God travels through space. I'm really not sure what to do with that. But what I wanted to point out is that Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, are not the Mishkan. The Mishkan is a successful lightning rod for our attention and, theoretically, for God's. Having that nexus point is a way of communicating. It was a sacred communication tool. It was not God. Similar to the Torah and the story that I shared of my friend, the Israeli early childhood educator. She was asking about the confusion between God and object. But for the children there, and for me, it didn't enter my mind that the Torah was God. It is an amplification of voice. It is a way of seeing the shimmery possibilities of sacred thinking and living. In a certain sense, it was an imagination amplifier. It activates what is deep within us. And if we take the text seriously, it brings God's attention closer, perhaps because it brings our attention to a focus. So I leave us with those questions. What a powerful thing it is for us to have tools for communication that help us imagine and think beyond what is obvious, that remind us to connect in the world to our sisters and brothers who are not in our direct line of sight, but are absolutely in our consciousness. This morning broadcast for our 6 years of gathering has also served to bring our attention to a focused place, to one part of the world. For me, that is part of the experience of God. It is a way of understanding that what connects me and the person who's walking in the rain outside my window, and friends and family members in Israel who are literally in shelters right now, Torah and this specific ritual that we all share is a way of experiencing the world more sharply, staying focused and attuned on others, and perhaps that is a way of God being manifest in the world. More and more, I come to see the notion of clouds of glory as the connective tissue, perhaps invisible, between people. That doesn't make this screen in front of me an idol. It doesn't make the like button a sacred device, but it does mean that in the space between all of us, however we describe this thing that we are, that will reach a 6-year anniversary in 6 days. This is a way of channeling the divine so that we can focus on creation. Something very important in that. And the Mishkan might be a shimmery, flashy spectacle in the center of our camp. But it's useful that it's so shimmery and shiny, isn't it? It brings our attention to a focus. We look. And when we look, we think. And when we think, hopefully we feel. And when all of that happens, hopefully we also act. We see through this holy nexus into the other parts of the world that perhaps we were too distracted to notice beforehand. Let's send our hearts to the east, friends. Let's really send our hearts to the east. Let's sing. Kol Lord balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia on lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Virushalayim. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.